Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I'm a big fan of orogenic gold systems because they can be spectacular money-making machines. Kirkland Lake, when they started drilling or mining their Swan Zone, turned them into the lowest cost producer of gold in the planet. The Swan Zone's in an orogenic gold system ultimately led them to be one of the best performing gold mining stocks and led them to a buyout. These are tremendous mining opportunities. And in Amex Exploration, they have a quite a phenomenal discovery of an orogenic gold system. And I'm glad to have Kelly Malcolm on to talk about what they found and why I think the company is so undervalued. Kelly, thank you for joining me.
Great to be back on your show, Alan. Thanks very much for having me, and happy 2023 to all your viewers.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Kelly, and same to you and yours. So, whenever I look at any kind of gold system, it's all about continuity to me. And at your high grade zone, you've got tremendous continuity of high grade starting at surface and going down below 1,000 meters. But what makes that even more exciting is that right beside it, you've got a open pit target. And the grades in that open pit target are substantially better than a lot of the open pit mines that are out there. And so the continuity at the high grade zone, this open pit target right beside it, that also will lead you to easy access to the high grade zone is tremendously exciting to me, Kelly.
I don't disagree with you with any of those comments. The only thing that I would add to it is, so the high grade zone, yes, beautiful continuity. Denise, yes, open pit target with pretty good grades. But what's interesting and something that we've been working over the last couple months in particular is on Denise, which is the open pit target. We're actually looking at paneling some of that gold off, and it's looking pretty good in 3 dimensions, and we're seeing strong continuity of higher grade mineralization within that big broad system.
Oh,
The cool thing about that is if you're looking at the high grade zone as an underground mining target, the big buzzword is ounces per vertical meter. No matter how high grade, no matter how low grade, you want to maximize your ounces per vertical meter, because the development underground and actually pushing down meter by meter is very expensive, as you know. So the more ounces you can add on a vertical level within proximity of that underground infrastructure that are mineable and economically viable, the better economics your project will have, because your development costs are offset by the amount of ounces that you can pull out of the ground. And of course, the higher grade those ounces are, the cheaper and the less volume you have to extract, the cheaper the extraction cost is. So your development cost is a constant, but your extraction costs can change dramatically, obviously, based on grade.
right. And so you're seeing a component in that higher the higher grade section inside of that open pit target going towards the high grade zone.
It's looking pretty cool. So that one was it's a funny zone, the Denise zone. So it was drilled in 2018, actually the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, with one hole, as was the high grade zone. We went back to it in November 2018 when we started drilling into the high grade zone. And we honestly, compared to those beautiful numbers we're hitting on the high grade zone, we thought it was a bit boring. We didn't even follow it, do much follow up drilling. We called it, we had the worst name ever. It was the high grade zone and the low grade zone.
Wow.
So we weren't really focused on it. However, as we started advancing the project in 2019, we started pushing some of the high grade zone. So actually, just for context for everyone, in case anyone's new here, high grade zone sits like this. We're drilling this way into the high grade zone, You can
Yeah.
actually drill through the high grade zone into Denise. And Denise is actually a big mass like that. So we started pushing a few of the holes into the low grade zone. And we were quite pleased with what we saw. We started seeing these big bulk tonnage type numbers, not too much continuity within that, but as we started drilling that in a lot more tight spacings and a lot more ferociousness, we started seeing that there was continuity within that big panel of these higher grade shoots trending. So that's something that we've really been working to model, and something that I think provides a lot of optionality from a very forward-looking potential mining scenario, because you can look at it in a few different ways. You can look at it as a pit target. You can look at it as a potentially underground mining target. You can look at it as a higher grade mining target, a bulk underground mining target. So it's an interesting thing, and Amex really has always been like that. There's always been so many different ways that you can look at approaching this from an extraction standpoint, in contrast with a lot of other projects where it's, here's the big body, here's the plug, you're going to take this plug and that's the end of it, or here's your sheet, you're going to take that sheet and that's the end of it. We have a multitude of different styles of mineralization, including some base metals that you can really tailor how you mine this to the style of the miner that's extracting it.
So am I getting this right, Kelly, that, okay, you've got the high grade zone here do you have an element of a parallel high grade zone related to Denise that could these be
Yes.
coming together at depth?
Potentially, and that's something that I thought wasn't going to happen. I'm going to pull something up in 3 dimensions here, Alan. Just give me one moment, please.
Yep,
You wouldn't
no
mind.
problem, Kelly. I love those 3-dimensional images. So does my audience. They like seeing pictures, Kelly.
I love them too.
Yeah. It's and especially on your project. I mean, after we get through with Denise in the high grade zone, there's some other stuff I want to talk to you about on your regional exploration.
Okay, perfect. Alrighty, so this should work for us. Let me just pull it up. Sorry, Alan.
Yeah, no worries, Kelly. There's no time. I don't have a clock ticking here.
So, okay, so this, for context, is the overall property package, or not, sorry, not overall property package, but the overall mineralized system, okay?
Okay.
So I'm gonna zoom in a wee bit. Over here, I think I can annotate this just for ease. Gratien, Grey Cat, Central Polymetallic Zone, Denise, kind of trending over like this. High grade zone, like that. Upper high grade zone, like that. E2 zone, team zone, 210 zone, Alizé zone. E3 is over here, QF is over there, and that's a pretty good approximation of where we are, okay? So
Okay, I'm going to ask you to go back to this later on because that's leading me to a question I want to ask.
okay, I'm going to turn off the drill traces. So we're
Okay.
just looking at gold on its own,
Mineralization.
and we're gonna look into the area of the high and low grade zone. So high grade zone is, just play around a little bit
In the orange, right? Oh, there we go.
Well, high grade zone is this beautifully linear body that shows up right here. This bright red area.
Okay.
You can see that. Let me change this. There we go. High grade zone kind of trends like this.
Yeah.
And I'll clear that. And it is very linear. As I start rotating, you're going to see it lining up beautifully. So,
oh, look at that.
This is your continuity that you're talking about, Alan. Coming over here. It's very, very, very tight. It's clean. It's
and it's open at depth.
It most certainly is, and it's as linear of a body as you could hope for. But you asked about parallel gold systems. So this is Denise. As we've continued pushing Denise through, or sorry, we're drilling as I'll put on the drill traces so you can see the direction we drill typically is from the north to the south. And we do push the odd hole through into Denise. And you asked about parallel mineralization. Well, certainly it's not as red, and the red in this case, let me turn on the legend so that we can see what we're talking about. Red's 5 grams per ton. So there's scattered gold mineralization throughout, but there is quite a lot of 5 gram plus material in that Denise, and I actually have it at a low cutoff, so it's 0.1 so we can see.
And that's significantly below what would be in a pit shell.
Absolutely, but we're down here quite a ways as we're trending down. So this is minus 200, which would be 500 plus meters below surface at this level here. Okay. So we're down there. But if I put it to, let's say we're looking at, I don't know, underground stuff.
Well, you can even see in that it looks like it certainly doesn't have the same kind of high grade continuity, but those two mineralized veins, exactly, if you will, they look to come together at about 700 meters.
They start trending in, which is really interesting. And it's something that I didn't expect to happen. And I'll show you why, because up near surface, we've drilled a lot of holes, so it gets a bit foggy because we've done a lot of infill drilling near surface. So you kind of lose it. But right near surface here, you can kind of see that they look like they're just close to one another. They're not exactly touching, but they're within maybe 10-15 meters of one another.
So and it's kind of like this.
Well, as we trend, so I'll show you, hold on, I'll show you why. So Denise follows this fall. It follows this trend. You can see this southern contact as the driving force for mineralization. And that's the driving force for a lot of gold, a lot of lower grade gold on the project. High grade zone doesn't. It follows a secondary structure.
Which is important in these orogenic gold systems.
It is absolutely important within these systems. So you can actually see here, this is it's a geologist map. It's hill shaded.
No, but we can see the contact.
Magnetics. So you can see the contact and you can see the structure coming across there. So so what I'm getting at here that I find really interesting is the reason that I said, and we had this talk before, is the Denise zone going to connect at depth? And at the beginning I was like, oh, maybe, and then I sort of trended away from that idea because Denise seems to follow this contact rather than follow that orientation of the high grade zone. However, what's interesting about it as we keep drilling deeper is that this southern contact, so we have our how do I do this with my hands? High grade zone kind of trending like this, Denise trending across like that. But what's cool is this southern andesite contact trends, it dips a little bit to the north and is almost pushing the gold into this high grade zone area. So who knows what'll happen? Who knows what depth that could occur at? But it's certainly much more of a possibility than it was a year or so ago before we started drilling these deeper holes.
So certainly not when I first spotted the chance that it could be connected in 2019.
Mm-hmm. You 100% did, and I was like, oh, maybe. But now we have pretty good geological reasoning to
believe that.
Yeah, there's no reason to say it will, but there's certainly no reason to say it won't. And that the dip is the driving force of that. So it's a little bit shallower than the high grade zone.
So it's dipping to the north and right at the contact.
They kind of come like that. So high grade zone would be here, and this one dips a little bit shallower. So as you get deeper and deeper, maybe they meet, and maybe something exciting happens at that point.
Wow.
Could be neat.
That's what I was excited about back in 2019, amigo.
I know, but
So all of your, or the bulk of your focus, your most intense drilling has been at the Denise and the high grade zone, correct? Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
this image speaks volumes. So we absolutely have done a ton of drilling over here. We've done a reasonable amount of drilling over on the west as well. Property wide, I would say very little.
And
Between
very,
that,
most of that drilling has all been contained in that Beaupre rock in between the southern and northern faults, correct?
yes. So here's
Okay.
the actual property boundary. This is a terrible map. Hold on. This one's much better. So here's the actual property boundary, okay?
Yeah.
You can see it in blue. It might be tough to see on the screen.
Wow, look at
But
all that cross-cutting faulting.
oh, it's all over the place. So something that like the problem with the problem with exploration is there's always so much more you can do, but we've obviously we were on to something very special, and we are on to something special, and we're working actively to define it, to expand upon what we found. But there's beautiful targets like this, and I've spoken about it a few times. Um, I think we've chatted about it in the past. So in the southwest portion of the project, and actually trending, let me put a different map on Allan. This one should work well. Yes, it does. So when you think about, and you're an orogenic guy, or you like the orogenic deposit, so this certainly wouldn't be new to you. When you think about Cadillac Larder Lake Break, Sunday Lake Deformation Zone, you think about those big ore bodies. The driving force, especially in the Abitibi, or the major fault, is at the contact of a conglomeratic unit, like the Temiskaming conglomerates in the south, and there's an equivalent conglomerate package in the Detour Lake area. But the contact between the volcanics and the sediments, which is marked out here, is really the main structure in these different systems. And this is the Shikobi fault. That's what we talk about often. So the fault that we're working on, the Normatal fault and the Perron fault, are actually secondary or third order faults. But the main mineralizing system that would have brought a lot of this gold in would have actually happened along the Shikobi fault and then splayed into the Normatal and Perron faults to bring it up to our system. So what's really interesting to me is this whole portion here has never been explored. There's beautiful. If I turn on
Cross-cutting faulting going right through the contact. Look at that
there's
physical anomaly.
yeah, that's that is picking up the sediment. So that's VTEM. So there's within these sediments in the Abitibi in particular, there's quite a bit of graphitic and from the mudstones that would have been present. So that's what a lot of that stuff is. But on Mag, for example, this one might show something, not really on this regional one, but nonetheless, there's lots of really neat targets down there.
Can you turn that last map on for a second? Okay.
This one here?
Yeah, that one. And then I'm going to ask you to go back to the one that you drew some circles on. So as I can see, I follow that Beaupre block that's in between the northern and the southern fault. And a lot of your mineralization is at the contact of that southern fault, but then you also have some close to the northern fault. That Beaupre block then pinches down as those two faults get closer together as you move to the west and to the south a bit. Then you've got these other cross-cutting features. Can you go back to that map that you drew some circles around the various different bodies? And I can wrap my question into those two maps.
I think I did that just on the
earlier in the conversation. You drew some circles around the various different. No, that's
I'm I think, Alan, I just did it on the blue screen itself.
What's that?
I'm quite sure I just did it on this screen. I didn't do it on a map. I did it.
Okay, so this is all, we can kind of from that previous map, we can see where all of this is contained in the Beaupre block. And then
And if I'll
along
turn
that southern margin there, you've got your that's the one. That's the one. And it's all a lot of it's on the southern contact, but then you've got some gold distribution on the northern contact. And what I'm wondering is, Kelly, is so you've got this, the direction of that southern fault is going to the north. And I'm wondering about the chance that they could all be connected to something as the two faults pinch together.
Yeah, as am I, Alan. That's something that we've been thinking about, and we do hope to get there and do some work, because it is a really compelling premise, especially. So the team zone, we haven't chatted about it, but the team zone sits at the north. It's in it.
Right.
So the Beaupre block is yeah, it's this one in between the two faults, but it's really two different styles of the same rock. So this browner color here,
Yeah,
represents, so it's called a flow top breccia or an autoclastic breccia. And what that means is, so the volcanoes that made this system, I'm gonna zoom out a little bit here. We're going deep here, Alan. Okay, so how it works. So the older rocks at Perron are at the top. So it's older from the north to the south, okay?
okay.
So the volcanoes that brought all of this, or the magmatic systems that brought all of these rocks into existence or into modern existence 2.3 billion years ago, 2.9 billion years ago, started here. So the base of the rocks are down here, and it pushed from the north to the south here. So the older rocks are at the top, younger rocks are at the bottom. And this is important when we're talking about VMS framework. VMS framework is driven by the top. So you need to know what direction your juices are going to be flowing, essentially, to pick up VMS mineralization. But in terms of the geology here, what's cool about this Beaupre block is, because it's a volcanic system, as we're going from north to south here, we have our massive rhyolites at the bottom, and then towards the top of the volcanic sequence, which would be here, we started getting rubble forming. So you get these breccias and blocks and chunks that sort of sit on top of one another, kind of like when you look at like Iceland, or maybe not even Iceland volcano, but something a bit more explosive than that, a bit more felsic. You get rubble. You don't just get like Hawaii. You get this ooze of this nice oozing, flowy pahoho. Going back to first year geology, pahoho type lava flows. In felsic systems, you get explosions. You get really
it breaks
bangs.
everything up.
It breaks it up, and then you end up with this breccia. So you have this big crumble of rhyolite. So at the top here, which is the south, that's where you get this brecciated rock. In the north, in the north of the Beaupre, you get a much more massive rhyolite sequence. So
when you have a better, you got a better sponge in one, and
you got a different sponge. So that's what we did think, to be honest with you, is we thought the south was the better sponge, because when you're trying to push, if you can just envision pushing some fluid through rocks, the more broken up, the more altered it is, the more ruined it is, the easier it is for the fluids to flow through. Right. So when you think about Denise in particular, you get a diffusion of gold within that system. You get these widespread panels. In the Grey Cat, same thing, you get this dispersion of gold around, and I'll show you actually on this. I can show it quite simply with this. If I go to a low cutoff, let's say 50 parts per billion gold. So 20 times the lower limit of gold. There's widespread gold everywhere. That's a poor example.
All over the place. Yeah.
This is a bit of a better example. No, I gotta go higher than that. Too much gold. So here, okay.
Too much gold. That's a good problem.
Denise, you can see gold throughout this whole unit, okay?
Yep.
Here's our team. You get really nice intercepts, but it's really driven by these fractures. So the difference between team zone in particular and the upper high grade zone and high grade zone is you get cracks, you get things breaking, you get violent activities versus in the south, you get a much more smooth, easy transition. You get gold sort of flowing in and out of these little cracks, spreading into the wall rock, and you get a more diffuse disseminated system compared to the north in this darker or this lighter yellow, sorry, where you get bang and you get stockworks, you get the high grade zone, which is a nice big single crack. So it's just a different host. It's obviously
but where it tightens up there, you can also get much more concentrated grades of gold as well.
You can. So that's why, like, if you look at our team zone release or 2 releases that we've done, there's really high grades in there. It's beautiful. There's multiple intercepts well above an ounce, and this is a brand new discovery. So there's a reason we're very excited about it, because it does have the capability and capacity to host high grade mineralization, but also because of the size and power of the system, we're seeing the potential to build something with volume as well. So it's an interesting area.
Wow. So you can follow the southern, you can follow the northern, and you can follow where they pinch. And there's some big structures in there too.
I was wondering where I lost my train of thought, but you brought me right back. Yes. So that's why we didn't really honestly care too much about going to the east until we started hitting
on the north.
Like we hit on the 210 zone before, which is cool. It's got some really nice gold. I don't know what that'll shape up to be in terms of the zone in the end, but this team zone is showing some girth. So now that we have that, plus we have all the stuff on the south, I think that it does make a lot of sense to go further east. Even historically, a lot of these holes are dramatically undersampled. They just take basically veins and sulfides. So, but we are seeing gold trending even further.
And the red is fault or is structures as well, right? Cross-cutting.
These are cross-cutting. Yeah, these are diabase dikes that cross-cut the system. So is that these are the mineralized trends. Unfortunately, they're the same color, but yeah.
Well, you know, the bottom line, Kelly, is you've got a widespread distribution of gold in various different zones, which is all suggestive of a very powerful and long-lived mineralizing system.
I don't disagree with you, sir.
And that's the kind of thing that makes for exciting orogenic gold mines. Yep,
absolutely. You need volume of mineralizing fluid. That's essential to a deposit. You need to have the juice. You need a system. You need diffusion. You need widespread mineralization. You need exactly what you said. Yes, you need a powerful system to bring in a project that matters.
And I think it's not out of the question to say that this has a high potential of being a future mine.
I can't speak to that, but certainly we're of the opinion that we have something that will eventually have the prospects of reasonable extraction, or whatever the 40:1 term is.
Probably wouldn't be you guys doing that.
Again, can't speak to that one, Allan, but
I can, because I know that there's a lot of companies out there, majors, that, you know, they're seeing their grades dropping in their head grades. They're not replacing mines as much as they could. They're so big that they need big. This ticks off a lot of those boxes.
I agree. Like as an outside investor and actually an investor, certainly it's coming together very nicely.
Great. Well, it sounds like you've done a lot of drilling in 2022, and you got a lot of pending stuff to come out.
We do. We've been delayed quite a bit. As you well know, assays have been horrendously slow across the industry. In certain areas, like the team zone, for example, I'll give you a little color on this. So we prioritize areas that we need to have the results in order to continue drilling.
Gotcha.
So the new stuff, for example, team zone, we it's quite expensive to rush. You basically pay double the price to rush your assays.
And
And
it's not that
where,
rushed.
pardon me, it's not. You're
Okay.
right. It's not that rushed at all. So it's a balancing act. So for areas like our expansion or infill expansion drilling on the high grade zone, Denise zone, Gratian, Grey Cat, the deposits that we know well, there's no rush for us to get those numbers. We know what the geology looks like.
Because you don't need to rush it to then drill more holes. You know where to drill.
We know exactly what we've hit. We know how to expand it. We know where to drill next. The only question is what grade will it come in. Whereas on new stuff, we need to know what the numbers look like, especially in like the team zone in particular. We got surprised, honestly. So we put out our first release. We put out. It had been forever for us to put news out just because of these delays. So we put out partial results, only the screen metallic results, because they were very impressive. They were high grade. They were, in my opinion, quite special.
What was the highlight?
10 of 10, I think, off just the top of my head.
Okay, gotcha.
But like a bunch of 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, I believe 100 plus gram material. So when we're drilling holes, there's two different assay methods that we use for gold. Conventional fire assay, which is the norm in the industry for gold analysis, and then it's something called a screen metallic assay, or sieve metallic, which is basically where you crush the rock down, pulverize it, and you dump it all through sieves, and you assay the coarse portion and the fine portion. But what's neat about it is you use a lot more material. So in the case of coarse gold systems like Perron, we found a significant increase and significantly more reproducible assay when we use screen metallics. So we probably do more screen metallic sampling than anyone.
Well, you don't need to educate me on that a lot, Kelly, because I'm a diamond guy, and sieve screening to get is really important, and size of sample is really important to understand representatively what you have.
100%. So we were of the same mindset. So we're keen on bigger samples, but what I'm getting at with that is we typically anything that looks decent, we do a screen metallic on. So anything with decent veining, a bit of sulfides, and in particular sphalerite, which is our big key indicator of gold, and of course visible gold, we'll do a screen metallic on. And the fire assays are typically just kind of borings, 0.1s, 0.2. In the case of the team zone, we got lots of surprises with fire assays. So when we reissued the results from the first press release, which was only done on the higher grade intervals, we expanded these quite significantly, actually. So in that case, we need to rush all of those numbers.
And picked up more gold.
And not only pick up more gold, but just to understand the system and understand where it's going and how it's evolving and the nature of it. So we rush those ones. We don't bother prioritizing the other ones because internally we know, yeah, it's there, it's not there, and how to best define and guide our drilling that way.
So
I know people have been. Wait, sorry, go ahead.
That explains a lot of why it's been slow to get assays when you're basically doing it 2 times every time and trying to prioritize and you know.
It's a bit of a balancing act, and the other thing is lithium is really swamped. So I remember Cisco and when they were going crazy with the 50 drills or whatever they had going, all the labs were basically just slammed. You couldn't get any work done. It's a bit funny because now it's lithium that is taking over the labs, and everyone's throwing every sort of rock that has any shot on the face of the earth of having lithium potential into the lab, and that's more time consuming method because you're using ICP-MS versus just a single fire assay sample. So anyways, it's the nature of the business. We do have a bunch of partial results and are working to get some stuff to market whenever we're able to interpret them and get complete results. So we
And
hope
you know
to have
that partial and being able to get a more representative, you don't want to release partial when it's probably not representative of what is really there.
Well, that our team zone one was a perfect example of that. We thought we had this high grade zone or sort of high grade scattered hits all over the place. In reality, it's really a broader system and something that like because we're drilling in all these different zones, different focuses. If we turned around and published results every time we got a hole in, you'd have a press release with 10 different areas that don't have it. You can't put a figure together. You can't put an image together. So we've made a conscious effort to batch up, obviously keep everything confidential as it comes in, and batch up our results to different zones so that people can understand what we're doing, how it's growing, how it's filling in, and start building a picture of what that resource looks like or what that deposit looks like in their minds.
As you were explaining that, it struck me that what you're talking about is a complex system. And in this case, a complex system is exactly what you want. Now, understanding that complexity and getting all the information you need to explain that complexity may take longer than everybody's happy with, but it's what you want. It's good.
In my opinion, it's better to present something that people can wrap their head around than just put something out to put something out.
And that's representative of what you've drilled
representative
into.
Of what we have, yes, most certainly.
Right. Well, I still maintain that you guys are a very undervalued situation. I did my a year-end report back on the 31st, and I had you in a couple sections. I had you guys in the Orogenic section, undervalued, and my silly season tax loss pick. It sounds like you've got a lot pending, and you will have a lot to talk about. So thanks for joining us again, Kelly. It's been way too long, amigo.
It has been. Thanks very much. Really appreciate it and hope to do it again soon.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm going to wrap it up and we can have a chat at the other end.
Right on. Thank you.
So there you go, folks. I hope that with all these maps and all these drill sections or drill hits and the geology of the system, you can understand that this is a very exciting orogenic gold system. And as I started the show talking about the Swan Zone and the orogenic gold system at Fosterville, these can be absolute company makers. In the case of Kirkland Lake, they were not a small company when they started out with this mining the Swan Zone, and it drove them up to, I think, a $10 billion valuation. These things are very lucrative to mine, and I think that Amex has a special situation here. I think they're very undervalued, and they have the catalysts to unlock shareholder value. So as always, my shows are for information purposes only. Important to speak with your financial advisors and do your homework. And part of that homework is Kelly and I have done interviews in the past. We even had the special opportunity to have Jacques Trottier join us in the past. Those interviews are on my YouTube channel. It's a great place for you to start your homework. Then go to their website, look at their presentation, corporate presentation, news releases, and if you do that, I think you'll understand why they really have something special here. And I'm a big fan of what they're doing. So
I'll just interject quickly 1 second, Alan, but we also have the Verify platform as well. So anyone's able to go on to verify.com, I think it is, and spin this around in 3D and look at all these different areas and take a property tour at their own leisure.
So they just go to VERFY, I think it is.
Minus the E, it's VRIFY, and then look up Amex, and you can go check out our core shack. You can go inside. There's a bunch of photos, behind the scenes stuff. You can see
Geez,
the
I
site.
better get on there.
Get on there, buddy.
Yeah,
It's,
send
it's
me a
pretty-
link,
it's pretty
Kelly,
slick.
for sure.
Will do.
So there's another place where you can do your homework. And I think that when you see a company that's this eager to get all their data out there, that tells you something about what they think in a big picture. They are very excited about everything that they've done, and they want the public to see it. And there's another source where you can do your homework. So there you go. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.